Last time we left one another, I was sitting in this same spot eating some delicious fried chicken. Well, at the moment, I am all out of chicken. Though my tummy is full, I am feeling a bit bored. I need something to do. I'd love to watch the television downstairs here, but I'm afraid it would attract zombies, so I'm going to have to go into my safe place, the bathroom, and sit around reading a nice, calm book. Doing this in the bathroom will ensure that I'm not spotted by any undead outside. Once my mind had been occupied with stories of times long since past, I realized my body was fully healed and I could remove my dirty bandage. Since I'm finally recovered and I can ensure that this house is totally safe, at least for the time being, I decided to begin working out once more. My ever-increasing physical fitness and body strength are going to be key to my survival in this undead hell. All that exercise had me feeling a bit moist. Thankfully, I knew just the spot to wash my sweaty armpits and sweaty garments in the same sink that I've been drinking from. It would seem, however, that I've been causing a bit too much of a ruckus. As I could see through the back door, there were small groups of zombies beginning to form, and the same from the front door. This bathroom wouldn't keep me safe for much longer, and just as well, we were completely out of food in this house. I would need to venture out into town once more, finding another safe haven, this one with some food. Looks like we're back in the rat race once more. No pun intended. This time around, I decided to try and venture through the forest, hoping that the trees would provide me with enough cover that I wouldn't be spotted by any of the zombies. Eventually, I came to a fork in the road. I could either venture west or south. I decided to go west up until the point as I was going I noticed a large group of zombies, and thus I decided to turn around and try to start going south instead, hoping for a more prosperous outcome. Eventually, I would come along some houses here, and I even spotted a small brick one with the window easily opened. After cracking it open, I jumped right in. Turns out I entered through the kitchen window. There's no doubt food in here, but I was a bit paranoid and decided I had better check through the rest of the house first, and I'm glad I did. Turns out the owner was still here, and they were looking a little worse for wear. I felt pity for them and decided to administer the only cure that I had found for this virus thus far, a good old boot to the temple. My actions were spotted by another outside, though. Looks like this isn't the safe haven that I'm looking for. They bursted through the window before I had a chance to think. I would try to take some food on my way out of the house, but I'm afraid that I couldn't find any before they chased me. Looks like I'm on the move once again. I have realized that these undead are quite slow and that there's no reason for me to panic and begin to run, because doing so will simply attract more of them. Slowly but surely, I am beginning to learn more about this virus and what it does to those that it inhabits. I am slowly becoming quite the survivalist. Perhaps someday even the undead shall fear me instead. I began to ponder as I made my way silently through the woods, eventually coming up to a shoreline, though I was unsure if this were a river or a lake or even just a very large pond. As mentioned in the first episode, I am quite unfamiliar with this area, being a new resident here before the outbreak. There was no one else, no one that was alive, that is. I find it strange that I've yet to find any other survivors, but there are still plenty of remnants of humanity all around, including, but not limited to, the hungry walking corpses that surround me at all times. For the time being, the shoreline seemed quite peaceful, so I would continue following it up until the point that I saw some buildings in the distance. Through this small patch of trees, I would then come upon a very large home. Attempting to make my way in through this window here, I was completely blindsided by a zombie who almost got the jump on me. Thankfully, though, I caught him just in time, pushed him to the ground, and began stomping his noggin in until the movement stopped. He was dead for a second time. I spotted another trying to get in through this window and thought maybe she knew something that I didn't. I pushed her down and began stomping her noggin in as well. After doing so, I decided to give this window a try for myself, and turns out it did open, and I made my way in. I suppose she was onto something there. We'll need to be extra careful and extra quiet so that we're not spotted. It's best that this little safe haven stays a safe haven for as long as possible, especially since it would seem the kitchen here has a banquet fit for a king. Before we can eat, though, we do need to ensure there are no zombies lurking in the hallway above. Luckily, after going up the stairs, I didn't see any. I entered one of the rooms and spotted a bookcase. I thought it might be best if I relaxed myself in here and just tried to stay calm by reading. Besides, it's not like those nightmare creatures are going to be going anywhere anytime soon. We've got all the time time in the world. Everyone could use a little R&R during some stressful times, and by God, these are stressful times. I opened up a broom closet and out burst one of the monsters. I managed to push it to the ground and stomp its rotten head in before it could manage to scratch and or bite me. Well, at least I thought so. Looks like it did manage to scratch one of my hands and the upper part of my chest. I'll have to bandage it with what little sheets I have. I'll need some time to recover. Looks like I won't be leaving this house anytime soon. Not that that should really be an issue, because in this broom closet I found a hammer. Any undead that decide to try and trifle with me will get a good little spanking right in the old noggin with this. I think I'm going to name it the Problem Solver. Seems fitting. One little problem I began to face though. I was very tired and I needed to sleep, but I was just in so much pain I couldn't do it. Well, if I can't sleep, I suppose I'll have to do what I did before the zombie apocalypse. Go downstairs and raid the kitchen for some maple syrup and peppers and really anything else I could stuff down my gullet for a little late night dinner. Can't heal from these vicious wounds on an empty stomach. I would then try to wisely use the remaining bit of my time while my body is healing to learn about electricity. Who knows, it may come in handy in the very near future. Maybe I could use it to hotwire a car or even set up my own lights. I'm not really sure. But what I do know is after that, my pain had mostly went away and I could finally get some rest for the night. I was feeling much better now, mostly thanks to sitting in my favorite spot, eating some food, and drinking some delicious sink water. Feeling so good, in fact, I decided to start exercising once again with some push-ups and some burpees to try and get my strength up. But I was beginning to feel like absolute shit, mostly because of this large heavy load that was lumbering on top of my back at all times. I decided to make the executive decision to get rid of my Magnum pistol, that way it wasn't weighing me down. Then I decided to try and play a crossword magazine puzzle because, well, I was actually feeling really sad. But it didn't really cheer me up, so I decided to maybe go look for some excitement outside. As frightening as it all is and may seem, to be honest with you, this zombie apocalypse is exhilarating. Going and rummaging through these houses and scavenging is actually very fun. Comparable, I would say, to something like skydiving or whitewater rafting. Sure, it's very dangerous and you could die, but you're still enjoying it, aren't you? After trying every single window on this house, I realized the front door was completely unlocked. I shut it behind me and then I tried to sneak up behind the only resident, snapping his neck. Well, stomping it technically, but you know, who cares? The kitchen of this house had plenty of food as well, but they also had something very interesting in here, something you guys have mentioned me several times, a can opener. Apparently this item is a godsend, and I can tell right away because there are many canned goods that I can't eat without it. A little strange since I have a claw hammer. You would think that I could just bust them open, but I guess that would completely damage and contaminate the food. I would then just begin rummaging through the place, seeing if there was anything of interest here, and truth be told, there really wasn't. Nothing but a few articles of clothing, and that was about it. Even all this scavenging though, and my brief encounter with the zombie didn't make me feel any better. I was still a tad weepy, very sad. I suppose I'll have to find excitement elsewhere. Before I go out on yet another adventure though, I actually began to realize something, a foolish mistake on my part that I've been making this entire time. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize the duffel bag was its own separate inventory item. After I realized that, I began putting everything in there, and now this all makes a lot more sense. I was really becoming concerned for my own mental health though. I even went outside and just sat in the rain for hours on end, hoping that nature would maybe make me feel better, but nothing. However, I did spot something very interesting as I was trying to play on this children's playground equipment, a set of keys on the ground. Nearby, a car. My obvious assumption was that these keys went to the car, and to my surprise, they did. And this car actually had some gas in it as well. I drove forward ever so slightly to ensure that it actually would drive if we needed it to. I didn't have anywhere to go and I didn't want the noise to attract the undead. I immediately went back inside the home, grabbed the nearest pin, and marked this place on my map so I would know where a functioning car was if I really needed one. Even with this great success in our pocket, we would still need to continue our exploration all throughout the town here. There was a much larger house next to the one that we've been staying in, so I decided to mosey on over and see if these rich folks had anything useful before they decided to die or flee or wherever they went. Here's an interesting tidbit of information for you. I'm sure you could probably hear that alarm, and I can hear it now too. At the time when I was playing, I didn't have my headset on, and I had a fan on in the background. I began wondering why there were so many zombies all around this house, and I was becoming scared and perplexed, and so I decided that I needed to try and get the hell out of here. But I didn't know the alarm was going off the entire time. We'll chalk it up to RB Jones's helmet being on a little too tight and muffling his ears, basically making it impossible for him to hear the entire thing. But I'm sure he's aware of what's going on now, as we have hordes of zombies all around the area. Looks like it's time for us to try to get the hell out of here as quickly as possible. I rushed into the woods before the large groups of monsters could get a hold of me, hoping that the trees might throw them off my scent a little bit. I wish I could tell you whether or not that this little tactic was working though, but if I were to turn around, I'm afraid that they might just get me. I did occasionally see a straggler or two though get a little bit too close. My travels through the forest eventually led me to a small 2-lane road, though I couldn't tell where I was at all because it was way too dark. After hiking down this road for several hours, I came upon what appeared to be a farmhouse. I noticed a light on the back porch, or patio I should say, so I would try to enter through the window. Though it wouldn't cooperate with me, so I decided to bust it out with my hammer before entering. I was hoping not to make that much noise, but I was in a panic and in a rush. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I had to find safety. Upstairs I encountered a zombie. I managed to push her to the ground after a few good shoves, and I even stomped her head in real nice as well. Other than her though, the entire place was devoid of life. It appears I may finally have a moment to rest and get my bearings back about me. Sure would be nice to smoke a nice cigarette here to kind of ease the stress and also cure my depression. Only problem is I don't have a lighter. I thought I had a big brain move here and that I was going to come down, turn on the stove and just kind of light it on that, but apparently it must be a glass top stove because I wasn't able to do so, unfortunately. Well, it looks like I won't be curing my depression anytime soon. On the bright side though, back upstairs I made some interesting discoveries. I actually managed to find a double-barreled shotgun, and originally I was going to take it, but there were no shotgun shells, so it would kind of be useless for the time being to load myself down with it. I did, however, find a pistol along with some ammunition for that pistol. Could come in handy if we find ourselves in yet another sticky situation. We are quite the little troublemaker, it would seem. But at least so far, we have managed to find our way out of those situations, and that's something to be proud of, I feel. Thanks to that, for the time being, we are safe once more. Until next time.